Assalamu alaikum, كيف الحال, شو أخبارك, and to those of you from Riyadh, شلونكم? My name is Jacques Mulder. I will start here first. I was a failed English student. I failed English in high school. Not something I'm necessarily proud to tell anybody, but it has relevance. I was destined to repeat my final year, but for some reason, my teachers decided to shift me along to make me somebody else's problem. I arrived at my university. I completed 3 years in 1 year. My only condition was I would have to teach the lecturers and the students and the teachers alike. I would have to train them computer science, computer animation, visual effects, anything around computers in that school. I subsequently graduated 3 years in 1 year. I was 18 years old, ready to go and leave to take on the rest of the world. It was funny because I decided to advance my career, but I was very young, 18 years of age. I went on to study animation, visual effects, technical directing, broadcast design, anything in the field of television and commercials. I was fascinated by it. I ended up in Los Angeles, London, France, South Africa, and I have to confess, I got to travel the world. What was interesting was my first commercial at the age of 21, it was a $500,000 commercial for the Super Bowl. It was very exciting. I was a young kid, naive, on a stage, studio, producing my first commercial. I did a commercial for Oprah, the opening sequence of her TV show. Back then it wasn't called Oprah, it was called ABC, I think it was. One day I got a call from Saudi Arabia. I was 23 years old. The conversation was very short. It was very interesting. The man said, "Hello." I said, "Hello." He said, "Are you okay to work in Saudi Arabia?" I said to him, "Are you okay to pay me a large salary?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Yes." 24 hours later, I was in Riyadh. True story. What was interesting was, in school, we didn't know much about the Middle East from South Africa. Very little. We knew it was sandy. So I was taken off to go and meet the owner of the company. But it wasn't in an office. No. It was in a khema. I was taken to Aswad Khema, Abiyat Khema, pick one. The meeting was beautiful. There was a complete stranger, 2 different worlds, me and him, sitting on a red carpet, discussing my salary, discussing our differences, our cultural differences. Keep in mind, I was 23 years old, and keep in mind, I was skinny, I was blonde, and I had green eyes. I also got to have my first kabsa experience. My right hand. That was fun. Naturally, we became the best of friends, and for the next 3 days, I did not leave the desert. I stayed there. I learned how to ride dababa in the sand dunes. I learned how to drive a car on the sand dunes, but the restrictions were more complicated. I was not permitted to learn how to drive the car with the lights on and with no moon, only in the dead of night, and learn the feeling. We hunted jerboa with our feet, as you do in this region. Obviously, we didn't harm any animals in the making. Funny thing is, I ate a lot more kabsa, and I perfected it. Here in Saudi Arabia, I got to discover that my path would change. It changed more than dramatically. I mean, I was an animator. We discussed stories and movies, and we discussed adventures, old stories, historic stories, cultural stories, all these type of things we discussed. in the middle of a desert, just two of us. Little did I know then, but maybe a few years later, I realized that this would be one of the most defining moments of my life. 23 years ago, in a desert, young animator with the whole world at my fingertips, and Saudi Arabia was the one place I could never leave. All right. Some of you in the audience know me as Jacques Wahid, Jacques Sanduk, Mujnoon Jacques, and now more recently I'm now known as Abu Zayed. My wife gave me a beautiful son, and we called him Zayed. Thank you. However, let's go back to Saudi Arabia. In the beginning, there was no name for an animator on your iqama, right? No name for animator. Instead, they put me on as an anesthesiologist. I was a doctor at the age of 23. Pretty good by my standards. I would arrive at the airport, be greeted by the immigration officer. Aywa, doctor. Khalas, shukran. I would always get special preference. I really enjoyed that. It was a nice treat. And now, because I'm a director, because I'm a crazy, creative person, I always put myself in very, very dangerous positions. I have been hit by more vehicles than a crash test dummy. I've been hit by a car. And wallah, I tell you this now, these are all true. I have been hit by a submarine. True story. I've been hit by a truck. I've been hit by a bus. And I've been hit by a motorcycle. I stand here before you, a man who has broken all the bones in his body except for his left arm. True story. I even managed to break my neck. I lay in hospital for 6 weeks, told I would have a very difficult life. I was paralyzed from the neck down, and I have to say, it was a life-changing moment. The doctor said, "You would never live a normal life." How right he was. I proved them all wrong. I was standing in 6 weeks. I was running in 6 weeks. And I had no problem with my neck. Alhamdulillah. So if my life wasn't crazy enough, well, I married an MMA fighter. True story. My mother, if she could speak Arabic, she would say, and she wouldn't look at me, she would say, "Wallahi, Jack, enta mujnoon." My friends would ask me, "Jack, you want to marry an MMA fighter?" "Yes." "Why?" "There'll be no shouting and screaming, just blood and bleeding." By the way, she did not do that to me. I am your witness, you are my witness. She did not do that to me. I decided to learn how to fight, and that happened to me from somebody else. Somewhere along the way, I realized that the borders on the maps, they're not meant to contain us. They are our destiny to try and be transformed by them. I felt that, why should we be restricted? Why should we be stopped? Why should we be retained? Go out there, live a life, experience the world. You'll understand soon why. I felt that changing the rules was always a good starting point for where you wanted to go, what you wanted to achieve. For instance, a creative concept came along. I would want to do something crazy because I still have to break my left arm. Sah? Over the years, I've got to train many young Saudis, of which I'm very proud. Some of them want to learn directing, producing, writing, editing, visual effects, animation. The list goes on. I feel like I have an endless list of students in this country. Yes, mashallah. But before I started with them, I always had this to say to them. And this was crucial. This was imperative in my mind. There are 3 rules. Be impeccable with your words. Use big words. Use kind words. Use nice words. I'll arrive at 6 o'clock. Exactly. Second thing is, tell the honest truth. I mean, that goes without saying, sah? And lastly, and most importantly, do your very best at those two. Very simple, right? Well, I have my students and I have the people I care about, and they've been with me. Knowledge sharing is an important and vital part of my life. I've discovered in the later years of my life, I like to pass on knowledge. I feel like it's this gift. Passing on wisdom is a beautiful thing that we can all do. And I firmly believe that the only reward you get from passing on gifts, skill sets, knowledge, wisdom, it sits here inside you, because you end up feeling the reward that you cannot ever describe. Now, all of us sitting here in Saudi Arabia, those of you that are writers, producers, directors, write books, write screenplays, I believe we all have an obligation to tell the right story, to tell that genuine story, to tell that beautiful story. Saudi Arabia is riddled with incredible stories. Soon you will understand why. Go out, cross those borders, travel them, explore, find. So now it gets to the part where I, the director, get to tell you a story. More recently, I was asked to write a film about Case or Layla. I'm sure we all know the story about Majnoon Layla, sah? Well, it took me 13 days to write the film. It was 100 pages with seven original poems in the actual film. It's set in present-day Riyadh, and I did my research. I read the poems of Case. I spoke to professors in Egypt who translated the poetry in the past. I did all my research. But the one thing I didn't need help with was this. I know the culture. I know the people. I know the lifestyle. I know how people live. I've traveled with Saudis. I've explored with Saudis. I've had adventures with Saudis. A lot of the stories I can't tell you necessarily, but it's been an amazing journey. But there were 5 experiences that I put in the film that I feel were genuinely relevant. This film is set in present-day Riyadh in this year. And my true test was this. I gave the film to my wife, the MMA fighter. I gave the film to my Saudi partner, Nura, sitting in the audience. And I watched them read the last page after they read the whole script. And their reaction was priceless. Both of them burst into tears. Not because the film was sad, because the film was beautiful. It is a romantic comedy. And yes, we're nearing the edge of our funding, I have to say that. But I have to say, what a beautiful sentiment. Writing a story, inspiring young Saudis destined to get married, and gives them the opportunity of some kind of ratio, benchmark, if you want to call it that. A nice way of seeing it, but a beautiful sentiment. Now, this is very important to me. I have been a prime example of this. I have traveled the world, naturally. And guess what? I often speak about Saudi Arabia. Yes, I go and talk to random strangers, people I meet. I talk to a lot of people about what I've done, what I've experienced in Saudi Arabia. Their expression is generally always the same. What? La, I don't believe you. It's not possible. No one can believe what I've seen. In fact, my book should be titled, What You Don't See. I have won many awards around the world, either from creative writing, screenplays, movies, creative commercials. I've traveled to 107 countries. I have been to every city, town, village in Saudi Arabia. I've traveled them all. Sometimes 3-4 times I've been around Saudi. And often I would be sitting in the car in an Uber or meeting a client in a restaurant, having a coffee with a friend, some random stranger, and I would say, "And when?" And they would always proudly say, "Saudi Arabia." And I would say, "La la la la, when?" And they would look at me confused and point to the city and go, "Riyadh." I said, "La la la la, when ya khoy? Abha, Januba, Baha, Tunuma, Yad, Waj, Yanbu, Dibba, Wadi Dawasa, Wadi Disa, Tabuk, Hayal, Qasim. And invariably I would catch their city that they were from. And the surprise on their face, there was nothing better than that. Because they would then confess to the city or country that they came from. And I would say, I've been there. So, now this is the complicated part. What truly matters is who you are and who you're becoming. Those borders there, they do not define you. They do not stop you. You are to travel, you are to explore, and you are to get the experience that you desire. Oh, sorry. I will leave you with this. I have directed 2 Hollywood films. I have worked on 6 Hollywood movies. I have worked with the A-list actors, and I have worked with some incredible talents around the world. I have loved every ounce of my life. I have thoroughly enjoyed it. I've written 27 screenplays, 120 poems. But guess what? Here's a shocker for all of you. Most of those ideas, most of those concepts, most of those poems, most of those stories came from here, Saudi Arabia. Wallahi, I'm proud. You have no idea. I leave you with this. My inspiration is for them, my family, my kids, my life, my enjoyment. I have worn the bisht. I have my camels, Abiyat or Aswad camel. I've stood in front of the sun, I've traveled this country, and for some reason, I cannot leave. I'm very proud to be here. For those of you in the audience destined to write a story, write a poem, write a book, write a movie, I hope one day you stand on this circle because you'll get to feel how I feel. Ironically, I'm a bit nervous. I'm a director at the end of the day, so I shouldn't be in front of a camera. I thank you for your time. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been amazing. Ma salama.